Hey guys, welcome to Big W BBQ. Today we're going to be broiling up a steak. Thanks a lot for hanging out with me here today. Here on the channel you will find recipes as well as tips and tricks that will hopefully help your time out at the barbecue go a little bit smoother. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing or liking us on the below social media platforms. The inspiration for today's cook actually comes from my old man. While growing up, I have memories of my dad cooking a steak like this occasionally, as well as I'm hoping to release this video on January 10th, which also happens to be his birthday. So Dad, if you're watching, happy birthday. As well as in my end of the year video, I mentioned I wanted to do a couple indoor cooks for some of you that don't have access to a grill or your living requirements don't allow it. When I was going to college, I lived in an apartment complex that didn't allow grills out on the deck. And so whenever I ever had that craving, for a good steak, I was kind of out of luck. And so this was a good alternative to help satisfy that craving. Also, if you live in a northern climate where it's cold outside, this is also a great alternative instead of standing outside in the freezing cold next to the grill. So let's go ahead and dive right into this video. Here I've got a little under a pound New York strip steak. This is just my preference. You can go ahead and use whichever cut of meat that you want. You're going to want to look for a little bit thicker piece of meat. This is probably about 3/4 of an inch. You want to stay within the range of 1/2 inch to 1 1/4 inch or so. The reason being is if you get too thin, it kind of shrivels up and it cooks a little too quick. So just something to keep in mind, I guess. So before we go ahead and start seasoning this, you're going to go ahead and pull this out of the refrigerator and leave it on your countertop for a half hour, 45 minutes, no longer than an hour. And all we're trying to do is we're trying to raise the internal temp. So before we go ahead and start seasoning the steak, let's talk a little bit about how we're going to be cooking this. So I've got a cast iron pan here. You can go ahead and use any pan as long as it doesn't have a rubber handle. They also have pans that are dedicated to broiling. So if you have one of those, definitely go ahead and use that. If you don't have either one of those as an option, you can also use a cookie sheet. If you do that, go ahead and put a piece of tin foil down underneath. That's going to help with the cleanup as well as keep that steak from sticking to the pan. So first step I'm going to do is here, I'm going to go ahead and pour a little bit of olive oil here on the base of the pan. And all this is going to be doing is just helping keep the steak from sticking to the pan. It doesn't really add a whole lot of flavor. Don't need a ton. Go ahead and brush that on. Before I transfer this over, go ahead and season the first side. You can go ahead and use any steak seasoning that you prefer. Typically, when I'm working with beef here, I like to just use salt and pepper. I find that, especially beef steaks, they've got a good flavor to them already. I don't want to hinder that too much with seasoning. So the salt and pepper is just going to help enhance that beef flavor. What I'm going to be using here is actually kosher salt as well as coarse grained black pepper. And you're going to go ahead and be pretty liberal with it. Alright, now that we got the first side seasoned, we're going to go ahead and move this over to the pan and go ahead and put the seasoned side face down. Then we'll go ahead and add seasoning to this side as well. Alright, that looks pretty good. So now we're going to go ahead and let this sit. This is a great time to go ahead and start preheating your oven. So most modern day ovens are going to have a broil setting. So go ahead and turn that on. If you don't have that, you can go ahead and turn on the oven and just crank up the heat close to 500 degrees. Before things get too warm inside the oven, go ahead and adjust the top rack. Now, depending on how well done you want your steak is going to dictate where this rack is going to be at. If you're looking for a medium rare to medium, you want to have this about 4 to 5 inches away from the steak. Typically, it's going to be one of the top settings. If you're looking for a little more well done, you're going to want to lower that a little bit. The reason why we want the steak so close to the heating element for a medium rare steak is because we're looking to sear the outside of the steak pretty quick. We want to get that outside up to the 160, 165 safe zone there, but we don't want to bring the internal up that quick. If the steak is too close to the heating element, but it requires a longer cook time, what's going to happen is you're going to burn the outside of the steak. Ultimately, this is going to take a little playing around with to get the right setting. So while we're waiting for the oven to preheat, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about how we're going to cook this steak. If I'm looking for a medium rare steak, and I got about a 3/4 inch steak, I imagine it's going to take somewhere around 4 to 5 minutes per side to cook. Now the actual time it takes to cook is going to vary quite a bit depending on the type of meat you have as well as how thick it is. If you're looking for a sure-proof way of cooking this steak exactly how you like it, I always recommend having a meat thermometer. So I know there's a good chance that I'll get called out by some of you grill masters out there, but the reason why I like to use a thermometer is it takes out the guessing game, as well as I hate to ruin a good piece of beef. If you do happen to use a thermometer, I'll be sure to list the temperatures down below in the description on the difference between rare, medium rare, well done, etc. Once the oven is fully preheated, go ahead and toss it in there. After 4 or 5 minutes of cooking, we're going to go ahead and pull it out, and we're going to flip the steak. Be extra careful if the pan is extremely hot. Then we're going to go ahead, put it back in the oven for another 4 or 5 minutes. All right, I think the steak is done now. So since this video is in a way dedicated to my old man here, I'm going to go ahead and do something he would do, and that is use real butter on top of the steak. Alrighty, it looks awesome. Let's go ahead and cut right into this. So it looks like I may have cooked it just a little bit long there, but overall it looks not too bad. So let's go ahead and give this a try. Yep, still got a lot of great flavor there. Taste that beef flavor that I really enjoy. A couple things I noticed off the top here. Like I mentioned, I cooked it a little bit too long. So as you can tell, I mean, your time frame there on how fast that cooks is pretty quick. So it's easy to overdo it if you're not careful there. So I probably recommend, shaving off a minute or so there to help make it a little bit more rare for my preference anyways, I guess. Overall, everything turned out pretty good here. I'm missing one more element just to kind of top this off as if my dad were to make it, and that is a baked potato. This, my friends, here is a man's dinner. We got our steak, we got our potatoes, and we got an ice cold Coca-Cola. Thanks so much, guys, for hanging out with me here today. If you've enjoyed this cook, please do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button down below. As well as, I'd love to hear from you different ways that you like to cook a steak not using a grill. I hope this video has been useful to any of you that don't have a grill, as well as I hope that you can stay warm. Thanks again, guys. Have a good one.